When this country was established, it was decided that we would vote together as a democracy. These elections would go on to shape our country into what it is today. So you can imagine how disappointed many people are to find out that people just don't care about voting anymore. According to an article by the Washington Post, in the presidential election in 2016, about 43% of voters just didn't vote, and they just couldn't be bothered to go out. That's about 100 million people. People just don't seem to realize how important these elections are to our society. Even if you don't really care for either candidate, you have to vote for which one speaks more to your needs. If someone wins and you don't agree with their policies, that's your life for the next 4 years. People are always so unhappy with the politics in this country, but half of them didn't even vote. Most of these complaints seem to come from young adults who are too lazy to look into said politics, choose what relates most to them, and go out and vote for it. Next year will be the next presidential election. We need to get as many people interested in voting now more than ever. We need to have a leader for this country that wins a true election, not half of one. I hope through some of the statistics I will show and some of the facts I will say, I can leave you with something to think about. According to an article in Time magazine, the 55.7% participation rate in 2016 puts us 26th among 32 developed nations in voter turnout. We have to get people understanding the importance of voting. We need to remember, as Americans, we have a duty to make sure our politics are in order. We can't let others speak for us just because we don't feel like doing it ourselves. Don't let others decide your situation for you. With over 100 million people not voting, do we really have an idea of what this country wants? Take sides out of the equation. There will always be differing opinions when it comes to politics, but I feel all of us can sit down and agree that only having half of the voters voting just isn't acceptable. There are many people out there who are unhappy due to our political climate, and guess what? That's mostly due to millions of people not voting. Nobody knows for sure where we would land on the political spectrum if 100% of the voters voted, but we wouldn't have to waste time trying to figure out what everybody is thinking when we could clearly see it in the votes. Now, I set together this little PowerPoint here to show off some of the statistics from the 2016 presidential election. So, as y'all know, it was a pretty controversial election. A lot of back and forth, a lot of confusion within the crowds. No one really knew exactly what they wanted, and that really does show in the voting when it turns out that 46.9% of people in the general election did not vote. That's a mix of people who were registered and non-registered, but they were old enough to vote. About 25.6 voted for Clinton, 25.5 voted for Trump, and 1.7 voted for Johnson. This was, again, the general election. So, obviously, I want you to get out and vote if you haven't been doing so already. I don't want people running around not understanding the importance of this situation. Your vote could literally be the difference maker in the political world, so why would you want to sit around and waste it? It is so important to our society that you understand what you want out of it and go put your vote out there. Without your vote, higher-ups are just going to assume what you want and make all the rules for you, assuming you'd be okay with that because you didn't vote. Now, even though I want people to go out and vote, I don't want them to do it blind. You need to educate yourself on what you stand for and which choice will be best for everyone in the long run. An article from USA Today goes into why forced voting won't really make a difference at all. We could force everyone to vote, getting our voter count up, but we all know they still aren't going to care. Most people will just go in the booth, choose someone at random, and do whatever it is to get them out of there faster. Whenever you cast your vote, that is your contribution to society. So why would you want to do it so carelessly? All it takes to be a responsible voter is a little bit of research. Just make sure you actually understand what you're throwing your opinion into. An article titled "The Democratic Duty to Educate Oneself" in the Nordic Journal of Applied Ethics goes into detail about the importance of educating yourself on the political world. The article mentions how people should treat it more of a duty than an interest. If more people would think like this, surely we could lower that non-voter count. Research done by Social Science Quarterly shows that it is possible that where you vote can actually sway your enthusiasm to vote. What this means is whenever you schedule when and where you're going to vote, make sure you do it somewhere where you can do it effectively. So don't wait until the very last day of voting and you already know the voting area is going to be packed and you aren't going to want to go. Just try to make it easy on yourself. The website The Best Colleges did a piece on why we need young voters now more than ever. They demonstrate that a lot of young adults have this mindset of, well, as long as it doesn't affect me directly, why should I care? These young adults fail to realize that even though it might not affect them right now, it very likely will in the next 4 years. These young adults aren't experiencing things like college debt or a full-time job just yet. These are reasons why you should absolutely be educating yourself on politics and getting out there to vote. Don't just think about the here and now, think about the future. If everyone would be more responsible with keeping up with politics and actually going out to vote, our political climate could be so much easier to handle. If nobody actually takes the time to care about their contribution to our democracy with their vote, then we will all have our choices made for us. And as you can imagine, the public's not going to be too happy about that. So in conclusion, after seeing the abysmal voter turnout of the 2016 presidential election, I hope that we can all understand that the time to care more about voting and politics is now. So when it comes around time to the next election, I want everyone to go out and let their voices be heard. Let others know the importance of voting and make this country proud.
Very good.